Sobriety for a lot of people means kind of stop having fun and stop going out because in this culture that we live in, everything is about any type of social interaction usually involves alcohol or something like that. And it's okay because a lot of people use alcohol to loosen up. It makes them talk more, it makes them feel more confident, and that's okay. But after a while, your habits, you are your habits. And if you keep doing that, you're eventually going to end up in a place that you don't want to be at. And so I think sobriety is a very important tool for a lot of people. I personally love alcohol. Like, alcohol is one of my favorite things. When I drink alcohol, it makes me feel free, free like a bird. I just, like Nina Simone, she has this quote. She's like, there's a couple times in my life where I felt free. And when I'm on that stage singing my heart out, that's when I feel free. I feel the same exact way when I get blacked out drunk. But it just makes you feel like very loose and very free. And so that's why alcohol kind of like brings you back, because sobriety can kind of make you really have to sit with your feelings and emotions. And a lot of people want to find escapes from those type of things, but it's important to face these things because they're going to pop up eventually, and no matter what, you're going to have to deal with these things. And if you just drink or smoke when you feel bad, all you're doing is suppressing these emotions. And then if you keep suppressing, eventually at one point it's gonna boom and it's gonna explode, and you're gonna explode on something. That's why you see like people who have like crazy angry outbursts, because they spent like a whole life of suppression. And it's easier said than done. Like, we all suppress emotions. I know I'm definitely a victim of this because I work in a restaurant. I want to make sure that it's like a good environment. And so yeah, sometimes people say stuff that I don't like, and you need to walk the walk, but you also need to talk the talk. And it's a lifelong journey. It's not like once you do it, you're done. You always want to have your guard up, and always just want to make sure that you're really living to your truest self. With any substance, it's a slippery slope because in the beginning you have control over the substance, but as time goes on, these habits they get ingrained more, and after a while, now the substance that you had control over, now it has control over you, and it's a slippery slope. I know personally speaking from my experience, some of like the times when I've like kind of hurt people was when I was intoxicated. Because naturally I don't do those type of things when I'm sober. When I'm intoxicated, you don't really think about what you're doing, and you're very easy overcome to your situations and circumstances, and your environment is everything. And if you're in the wrong environment, you might do something where you harm someone. And I personally don't want to harm anybody. I don't want to put that type of energy out there. If anything, I want to put out better healing energy if I can. So I've been sober before. Sobriety has been a thing that I kind of have played with a lot in my life. The first time I was sober, I think, was when I went on probation, but that was forced sobriety. It was much more sobriety from weed, because weed, personally, for me, it's a very like easy thing to kind of like fall victim to, because it's like so nice and gentle, and it feels good to be high. But for me personally, weed makes me very unmotivated. It's like it hits the brakes on this like vehicle of a car of mine, and I just stop doing all the other things, because when I'm sober, I'm a very productive person. But when I get high, it's like the opposite, and weed kind of lets my body relax, but also a lot of times that relaxedness, it'll go on to other days. So maybe I might get high one night, but then I wake up the next morning and I'm supposed to do stuff, but instead I'm like, well, I still got some weed left, so I might as well just smoke some weed. And that's just something for me personally. I know people that can smoke weed, have a list, and do that whole thing. That is not who I am. I wish it was, but it's not. Another time when I went sober, and this was my most recent time, it was probably about a year from now. It was about a year from now. I went sober for 2 years. Well, I broke my sobriety a year ago, but before then, I was sober for 2 years, and it's because I was kind of going through a dark time. And I just found that whenever I smoked or drink alcohol, I couldn't control my mind the way I wanted to, and it just bring up nasty thoughts. And I was like, okay, fine. Like, I'm gonna have to go sober. I have no choice. And it was a really great experience. Like, I did a lot of stuff. I started learning piano, and I did that for a whole year. And then I was like, you know what? I don't like piano. So I quit. But I was just very disciplined, and my mind didn't have anywhere to kind of escape, because when you like drink alcohol, smoke weed, anything like that, you're creating an escape for your mind. And my mind didn't have that escape. So I was able to really just like hone in my discipline and really do the things that I told myself I was going to do. And that's a very powerful thing very powerful to be able to say you're going to do something and then do it. It builds a sense of confidence in you, and you feel very good when you accomplish these things. The thing about drinking and smoking is, especially if you're like kind of on a path of self development and discipline and stuff like that, and just kind of doing hard things to kind of harden your mind, you could say. The thing about like these substances is they kind of break your momentum, you know? You'll be like doing so good, and then you might drink, and then the next day you're like, well, I have to recover now because I feel like ass, you know? And not only that, you don't have to recover physically, but you have to recover mentally because you were like so ready to do these things, and then you got drunk and you kind of changed your mindset, and now when you come back to your mindset, your body's like, it's just, you can still do it, but it just makes it a little bit harder, you know? And that little bit of hardness might be the deciding factor between you going to the gym and you not going to the gym. And so that is one big reason why I'm currently gonna go sober again, is because it just kills my momentum. Like I'll have so much good momentum and then I'll get high and it ruins it. And then sometimes when I'll get high, it might take me like 2 or 3 days to truly recover to get back on my discipline. Or if I drink the next day, I might be super hungover, so I might go get breakfast with my friends, and I'll go get some drinks at breakfast because it makes you feel better. You know, when you're hungover, more alcohol makes you feel better. Usually, it just kills the momentum. So that's a big reason why I'm going sobriety, is because I want to keep up this momentum, and I just want to make sure that I am in control of my mind, because the mind is the only thing that you have true control over. Everything else, your job, anything, all that stuff, you have no control over. Currently, what I was doing was I was kind of like trying to cheat the system, you know? I was trying to like have one foot on this platform and one foot on this platform. What I mean by that was my goal was to be disciplined for 6 days of the week, and then on Saturday night I'd go out and hang out and get drunk, and it was kind of like my free pass. And I was doing that for a while, and it was working, but at the same time, like a lot of the times when I would do that, my Sunday was also involved in that Saturday night, and then it would take over. So now it's a day and a half type of situation. And also there'd just be times where people would be like, hey, like someone's coming in this Friday, do you want to hang out? And Fridays aren't a drinking day for me, but I'd be like, well, this guy's coming into town, maybe I should make an exception for them. And I'll make an exception for them, and then I break my discipline. And a lot of times when I break my discipline, I usually have to pay a price for it. Whatever price it is, it's always kind of different, whether it's just like my next day is ruined or I miss a workout or something like that. But usually when I break my discipline, I usually have to pay a price for that. When you do these substances, it most likely comes from a place of craving and desire, which is kind of like a low vibration frequency and energy. And so you don't want to indulge these low vibration energy and frequencies, because if you indulge these low vibration energies and frequencies, you're gonna attract more of that. And also you're just kind of perpetuating the cycle, you know, instead of kind of cutting the cycle out and be like, no, like we're done. I was in that state for a little bit, but I'm gone now. When you start indulging that, you start making it go longer and longer and longer. And everything in life, it wants to live longer. So if you're like feeling depressed and stuff like that, it's because you're kind of going from a low vibration frequency, and you just need something to change that. And I find personally in my life, when I'm extremely disciplined and just like doing my grind and just getting after it, I find that those depressions, they don't come as often. And when they do come, I'm much more capable of controlling the way it makes me feel. So the reason I'm going sober this time was because I went out with my friends and I got really drunk. And I got drunk on a Friday, so I broke my discipline. I was supposed to do a Saturday, but that same situation, my friend was like, "Hey, come out to dinner, blah 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 blah," and I was like, "Okay, yeah, I'll do it." And it was a great time. I had a really fun time because, I mean, how can you not when you get nice and drunk? But that being said, I didn't like the way that I conducted myself that night, and I didn't like the results of that night, I guess you could say. I'm getting older. I'm 26 now. I'm starting to become more of a man, trying to become more of a man, and I just want to be a more of a role model instead of just like that person who parties really hard. You'd be like, damn, Enver, he parties hard. Or you could be like, damn, Enver, he's like disciplined and he gets after it. And if you want some help or need some advice, you should go to Enver, because you're not going to go to the partier for, you might go to partier for advice, but they've been partying their whole life, so who knows what they're going to say. But someone who's grinding all the time and just trying to get after it, I think their advice would be much more solid in the long run. I moved to Durango, Colorado because I wanted to, well, first of all, my stepdad was like, hey, you can live with me, free rent, and that's huge. I mean, not paying rent. I haven't not paid rent in a long time, so it's really nice to not pay rent. I don't have to deal with money as much. I mean, I'm still working and stuff like that, but it's nice to kind of stack my bread up, I guess you could say. Another reason I kind of moved to Durango was because there's nobody really here. I have one friend here, but for the most part, it's just kind of me by myself. And I find in my life, when I'm by myself, that's kind of when I start becoming my most productive and best version of myself. Like it's great to have friends. Loneliness is truly a disease, so you don't want to be that person that pushes everybody away. Because I still hang out with my friends every once in a while, like once a week. I try to hang out with my friends, but at the same time, when you're like in the grind and you're trying to better yourself and discipline yourself, it's a lonely road, and it's just something you have to get used to with. But it's a good thing to be by yourself. It's a good thing to be lonely because you really learn yourself and your mind. And people who really can't spend a lot of time by themselves, those are people that you don't. It's not that you want to be not be with them, but it's definitely a little bit of a red flag if they're not able to be with themselves because that means they don't want to be with their own thoughts. They don't want to be with their own human being as themselves, and that's kind of a red flag. Honestly, I'm pretty dialed in. I have like good habits. I do good things. I just the main thing like I would say I'm 95% of there to really developing like that successful human being that I want to be. The only vice, I have a vice, you know? I mean, we all have multiple vices, but my biggest vice right now is my vice of partying. Like I like to party. I like to have fun. I like to go out. It's really fun, you know? It's almost like when I party, another side of me comes out and I get to express that side. And it feels good because that Ember likes to like he doesn't care. He's laughing. He's having a good time. He's dancing on the dance floor, and it's a great time. Sober Ember is much more like serious, I guess you could say. But that's something I'm gonna work out. I'm gonna try to figure out a way to loosen myself up while being sober. I think God put vices in all of us because if you're able to overcome your vice, then you're able to align yourself with the higher self that you're supposed to be, you know? But if you can't overcome your vice, then you're just going to be a piece of wood floating down a river, forever going down that river. And if you overcome your vices, you get rewarded for it. At least I hope so. But I'm pretty sure like you do get rewarded for overcoming your vices because it's something that's in you, and if you're able to overcome it, that means you're able to like kind of conquer yourself, and that is super important to me, and it's super important to people who want to better themselves. They need to be able to overcome those like feelings and thoughts of like negativity, low vibration, desire, craving, all that type of stuff. I know personally for me, when I go sober, I just tend to get more serious. Like things are just, I just what I've noticed since the times I have gone sober. And then when I did break my sobriety the last time, like a year ago, I was working at a restaurant. I remember everyone at the restaurant was like, "Wow, and we're like, you're having so much fun, blah blah blah. You're so much more loose." And it's true. I was having more fun and I was more loose, but my discipline was lacking. And I think it's at some point you kind of have to choose like you're gonna have fun or are you gonna be like successful, like disciplined. And I'm 26 now. I've had plenty of fun. And just because you go sober, I mean, it's not like mutually exclusive. If you go sober, you can still have fun. It's just, it's different types of fun. You know, you can't just go get blacked out at the bars and just wake up in the morning and be like, whoa, that was crazy, man. Like, it's much more like going on hikes and just doing other things. But you can still have fun. I'm not saying you can't have fun, but at some point you need to kind of make a priority. Like, do you want your priority to be having fun or do you want your priority to better yourself? You know, do you want to align with your higher self or do you just kind of want to blow past the time and have a good time? It's up to you, honestly. Like, I could care less which one you choose, but for me personally, I want to go down that success path, that discipline path, and just I really want to see where it takes me because I've been down the party path and I see where it takes me. It takes me with crashing on scooters and busting up my chin and stuff like that, which is fun. It's good times, but it's time for me to really like hone it down and really get serious about what I'm gonna do with my life. But so when I moved to Durango, I was still doing that Saturday party thing, and I just realized I'm like, no, this is not for me. And so I was gonna wait till the New Year's, you know, New Year's, new me. I was gonna wait for the New Year's to do my whole sobriety, but I'm just like so ready to like get after it and just really like get after it. And so I'm doing it right now. I was gonna wait till the New Year's, but what is it? December 16th right now. So December 6th, I've already been sober for maybe like a week now, and I feel great. That's what every vegan says when they go vegan for a week. But no, I do feel good. I feel good about being sober. I feel like my mind is a little bit more, I say like cushion from the outside world. It's like when I'm sober, my mind it has like shoes and it can walk down a path of nails and it won't just get like stepped on or it won't get pierced by nails. Whereas when I'm not sober, I realize that my mind, there's not as much control over my mind and little things will like piss me off way more than when I'm sober. The main way that I know how to change your mind is just through straight up habit. Aristotle said 95% of what you do is based off habits. So right now, currently, what I'm trying to do is just build really great habits. And getting drunk and going out, that's not a great habit. That's kind of like me indulging myself, and it's kind of making me come out of alignment for my higher self. So what I'm doing to personally change my mind is just build really good habits to what I think is good for me. Like going to the gym, doing my meditation, breath work, eating healthy, doing all that stuff. Going martial arts. All those things are my habits of what I think is going to take for me to really like discipline my mind and just make it like hard. I know personally for me, when I tend to slide back into kind of like my old bad habits, it's usually when something bad happens to me. And not like super bad, but maybe someone like says something I didn't like and it kind of makes me mad or upset. And then I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna get high tonight. And then I'll go get high and then that'll last a couple days maybe. And it's just something to be wary of because a lot of times when we end up slipping into our bad habits is when something is bad going on. It's almost like someone's trying to invade your mind, and if you indulge into it, you kind of failed. But if you're able to kind of fight that off, it makes it harder and harder, and your mind kind of builds up more and more defenses to when the bad times come, you're able to kind of just like really center yourself. Because that's what you need to do when these like low vibrations, craving, desire, all those things happen. You really need to center yourself. It's very important. And if you're wondering if like, I don't know, should I go sober? Should I not? Well, just think about it. Like the mind doesn't lie to you. So when I get high, I get crazy amounts of anxiety. And now some people would say, well, that's because that's not the weed doing it. That's because you're anxious, and that's a fair point. That's a fair point. But I think it's more so that your mind being like, hey man, like why are we still doing this shit? Like you were brought here on Earth for a purpose, and getting high and playing Apex, that's not that purpose. It's time to move on from this shit. Like this is some kid stuff. You're gonna be your kid a whole life, or are you gonna move on? Or even when I'll drink and I'll kind of go. Usually after one day of drinking is not too bad, but if I go like 2 days of drinking, I'll have such bad anxiety. It's crazy. I have such bad anxiety that it's hard for me to make eye contact with people, and it just if I can't make eye contact with you, it just makes me feel weak. And it'll be hard for me to make eye contact with people, and it's something that I've never dealt with when I'm sober ever in my life. But when I am on a bender, I guess you could say, I can feel so much anxiety. It's like the same thing. My body's like, Enver, what are we still doing, bro? Like, it's time to move on. Come on. So if you're wondering, should I be sober or not? Like, just think, how does it make you feel the day after? Not at the time being, but like the day after. Are you kind of like, damn, why'd I do that? Are you beating yourself up over it? Or, because, some people, they really do preach drugs. I definitely like, I'm a big fan of everything. I enjoy everything. I try to really keep my doors open. But that being said, with having your doors open a lot, it can be very distracting. You can lose your purpose really quickly if all your doors are always open. And so for me, I'm kind of just like finding a path and I'm going down it. But there are people that they're like drugs, they like save my life, like better relationship with my wife, this and that. But it's a very slippery slope, especially if you don't have discipline, especially if you're young. Because like I said earlier, you have control over that drug in the beginning, but after a while, that drug has a control over you. Because when you're a kid, it's easy to quit shit because you're not habituated to it. But as we get older and older, our brains get less and less plastic, which means they can change less and less. And those habits start getting ingrained more and more and more. And so it's just something to be aware of. Some people can drink a beer or two and they're good. I personally cannot. If I drink a beer, I'm gonna drink a bunch of beers and I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna have a good time. That's just who I am. It's kind of how you would say I have that extreme personality trait where when I do something, I kind of have to do it. I can't just kind of yeah, yeah. I have to like really go for it. And if you have this trait in you, then drugs and alcohol are probably not a good thing for you because you probably like to go hard, and that's not a good thing when it comes to substances like that. So just something to be wary of. Just like think about yourself. Be like, am I like a balanced type of person, or am I more of an extreme type of person? And if you're an extreme type of person, might be time to hang up those alcohol gloves. So this is like a year sobriety thing, right? But anything that I do in my life, I really try to make it like a lifestyle thing. Like if I'm gonna start jumping the river, I'm not gonna do it like once a week. I'm gonna do it every single day because it's gonna become a lifestyle thing. If I'm gonna start doing sauna, I'm not just gonna do it every once in a while. I'm gonna do it every single day. If I'm gonna start like juicing celery in the morning, I'm gonna do it every single day. So I don't really believe in like doing things for a certain amount of time. I don't. It's not that I don't believe it. It's just how I operate. Is I operate by making lifestyle choices, and so I said a year of sobriety, but and that's just so like who knows what happens in a year. But I really truly feel that one of my vices is substances. It's always been one of my vices, and it's always held me back from aligning to my truer self. And so I'm just gonna cut this vice out. And the thing about me going sober back then was I got a lot of done. I got a lot done and I worked really hard. But the only thing is I didn't have a vision back then. I didn't know where I was going. I was just kind of going and just trying to like figure things out. But this time I feel much better about my sobriety because I feel like I have a vision and I feel like I'm actually going somewhere. Who knows though? A year is a long time. I'm gonna keep you guys updated and we'll see how it goes. Stay strong.